Life is weird.
Super weird.
So, what did we decide to do with our fascination for the strange and unusual?
We made a podcast about it. This is Weirdify. Now,
let's get weird. And we're back
again
for another round
of
Weirdify. Episode 35.
Episode 35
of Weirdify.
Weirdify.
We're coming back.
We're coming back.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
We're back again.
I have a wine headache.
I don't. Whenever I drink alcohol anymore. Oh no.
It makes me so tired.
Oh my gosh.
I'm such a pussy. I can't.
Oh wow.
It's okay. We got it. Okay. I'm also very full of bread.
Oh my god. Okay, so I don't know.
We did mention it in the last episode.
Focaccia. Okay, so
Focaccia.
Oh my god.
Do it again.
I'm scared. So in an effort to just like keep things in the pipeline and my weird schedule and Haley being awesome, we are wow. Hold on. We are recording 2 episodes today.
Yes, we are.
So in the last episode, we mentioned focaccia, and in this episode,
we've eaten said focaccia. And so now we're in a bread coma.
And it's a good place to be.
Yeah, but now I'm all full and happy.
Haley brought over focaccia dough, which turned into focaccia bread, and then from there turned into focaccia pizza.
Yeah.
My stomach is so happy. Everything actually is happy. I'm so happy.
Amanda's in a really good place.
I'm in a really good place. I have a glass of wine.
She has a glass of wine. I don't have said wine. I'm going to wait for my little headache to go away, and then I'll drink more wine and get another headache.
I don't really get headaches until the next morning, so I'm going to go, what's wrong?
Oh, yeah. I don't get hangovers, but when I
That's because you don't drink enough to get a hangover, Haley.
Right. But
I do.
I do get, after a couple hours, especially wine in general, or super sugary drinks, I get very headachy.
Yeah. Well, we had champagne this morning.
Yeah. And orange juice.
Orange juice isn't super sugary, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, you had little fresh squeezed orange juice. No additives, no preservatives, no.
Yeah, but I added sugar.
Shit.
The additive was one of my own volition.
Oh, that's right. You did.
And I added sugar because they were very tart
sugar.
Oranges.
Yeah.
We would not have been able to enjoy them.
I don't have a headache. I didn't have a headache. I've never had a headache. I'm feeling great.
I'm going to be good. It's not going to last.
Yeah, I'm full. I'm happy. And I'm ready to, I wish I could think of something that rhymes with full. Ready to divulge.
Shoal.
Ready to.
You're full and ready to divulge.
Yes. This week we are doing, oh my god, am I doing it again?
Yeah.
Cults.
It's a new year, so you can just do them all.
Cults. We're doing cults.
I have a feeling this one might be a little bit of a doozy. Is yours a doozy?
No.
Oh. Mine's a little bit of a doozy.
This is the first time where I was like, I kind of hope we don't do the same thing.
Oh, well.
But we didn't. Based off what you told me, I am like very sure that we didn't.
Oh, okay.
Because mine's not violent or anything like that.
Oh.
It's just like, okay. Well, I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah. Tell me all about your weird cult.
Okay. So we're going to get into cults. I feel like this has been in our pipeline for a long time and it keeps getting pushed back. And I am the reason for that. Because I feel like cult has intimidated me a little bit. In like the sense that I want to cover it, but I want to do whatever cult I'm covering justice, if that makes sense. And I just feel like so many cults just require so much research, and I just want to be thorough with what I'm like putting out there. And so for some reason, cults has like intimidated me as far as the research standpoint.
A little daunting.
Yeah, totally. But that's okay because we're here. I'm going to tell you about my cult. All right. So what is a cult?
Tell us.
A cult is, by definition, per Google, the Googs. It's a system of religious respect and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. But can you really define a cult? When I think of a cult, I do mostly think of what was just defined. Someone who thinks they're basically God or is getting some type of divine message sent through them and projects that onto people who will listen, and in turn, they'll essentially do anything they say, i.e., give me all your money, quit your job, and devote yourself full-time to this cult, or drink the Kool-Aid. There are many famous cults. That was a cult joke, by the way.
That was a cult joke.
There are many famous cults that have made headlines over the years, and really any of them would be perfect for Weirdify. Unlike a lot of our other topics, I feel like with cults, anything that you select would be perfect to talk about, as they all share some form of oddity. Today, I'm going to be talking about a cult that at first glance really just seems like a new and improved utopia. As their leader, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh,
I didn't do it,
later known as Osho, is quoted saying, "I'm not special in any sense. I'm not claiming I'm the son of God. I'm simply saying one thing. I am asleep, and now I am awake. You are asleep, and you can be awake also. The awakened man will be the new man." The idea was that they didn't know race, so there was no discrimination on anyone. You can come and be any nationality, religion, race, and you'll be accepted for just being you. It's a spiritual movement to raise the consciousness of the planet, and the people who were at the beginning really felt like they were a part of something that they were chosen to be a part of. You could be a part of a community of love and compassion, where you can live with nature instead of against it. The sannyasins all wore red, pink, orange, purple. That was just the attire. And pretty much from here on out, I'll either refer to them as the sannyasins or the Rajneeshis. That's like one and the same.
This guy popped up in a lot of not my research specifically, but as I was researching.
Oh, really?
He popped up everywhere.
Well, I'm not super surprised to hear that, because there was a Netflix documentary that just came out about it. They weren't small either. They created a bank and had sannyasins loan them money. They were flowing in hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund their commune at the beginning. Alex and I watched a 6-part Netflix documentary, Wild Wild Country, and it's all about this cult. It's produced by brothers Mark and Jay Duplass. It's extremely well done, and I highly recommend watching it if you want to look more into this or if you're finding anything that I'm saying interesting. They have footage and interviews that you can't find anywhere else. This cult originated in India, where in the 60s, Bhagwan would travel around and promote his ideas, going against mainstream religions and politics. In 1974, he had around 3,800 sannyasins, or disciples, or followers, whatever you want to call them. And he established an ashram in Pune, India, which an ashram is a hermitage or a monastic community or other place of religious retreat. His followers would arrive and meditate and be a part of the commune that he had created. Their 4-part meditation process was as follows. It's called dynamic meditation, and it's used to awaken the Kundalini energy, which, among other things, it's an energy that lays coiled at the base of your spine and is said that once awakened will give you great orgasms. I mean, there's other things it does, but it was like they were definitely into sex. So
yeah,
I think that was kind of like the goal of it. He's quoted saying, "Now there are 2 ways, either repress sex as it has been done by all the so-called religious traditions of the world, or transform it. I am for transformation. Hence I teach my sannyasins to be creative. Create music, create poetry, create painting, create pottery, create something. Whatever you do, do it with great creativeness. Bring something new into existence, and your sex will be fulfilled on a higher plane." Stage 1 of the dynamic meditation is chaotic breathing, and it's just that. You're just like, like you're just kind of breathing all over the place.
Okay.
Stage 2 is explode. So you're just yelling and screaming and just like letting it all out. Stage 3 is called hoo. So you jump up and down and you hoo. So you're just like, hoo, 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 as you jump up and down. Stage 4 is silence. So you be quiet, you lay down, or you just be, and you're just
And this is
quiet.
how to tap into that energy?
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
So a pivotal player in this story is Ma Anand Sheila. And from the moment she met Bhagwan, she said her life was complete. From here on out, I will refer to her as Sheila. By the late 70s, they had worn out their welcome in India, which turned out to be tax fraud, immigration fraud, amongst other things. So in 1981, he went into a self-imposed silence, and there's a little bit of debate on why. Like, there was some incidences surrounding his self-imposed silence, but it doesn't really seem like there's one real reason, but it does seem like if you want to just like seem wise, you just like don't talk. So I don't know.
Okay.
He goes into this self-imposed silence. Sheila became his secretary and spokesperson at that point. She was given power of attorney over decisions, and from there on out, she was the voice of him. They met every night, and Sheila would relay the info back to the Sannyasins. Now, this is where the story really begins. In 1981, he and his followers went to Antelope, Oregon to create a new commune. Now, Antelope, Oregon, let's talk about a small town. Their population was 40.
Oh my gosh. Teeny tiny.
It's the kind of place where no matter where you go, you will know everyone. The Rajneeshi came in.
I don't even think I know 40 people.
Right? The Rajneeshi came in. They purchased an 80,000-acre ranch and immediately had truckloads of mobile homes being driven in, and it was clear that they were doing something big. The townspeople did not like their presence, but with or without Antelope's approval, and with 154 voters, all Rajneeshi, they voted in favor of Rajneeshpuram, and the new town was born. So they basically like became a part of the city council and voted in their own little town of Rajneeshpuram.
Right on. I guess that's one way to do it.
Yeah. They worked around the clock to build their commune from the ground up. They built their own electrical power grid, installed their own piping, built roads, built in all their homes, which was this honestly kind of cute collection of A-frame homes. It was a ton of them. Mm-hmm. They had a shopping mall, all with like red and orange and pink and purple clothes. It was like somebody in the documentary was like, yeah, the selection was a little limited, and it just like shows a store with all red shirts.
Oh, that's funny.
They had a pizza place, they built a school, and they even had an airport so they could take off and land from their own town.
Wow.
They produced agriculture, farming, and irrigation. There were greenhouses, chickens, cows, horses. It was a thriving metropolis that they created from nothing. And Sheila is interviewed in this documentary, and she talks about how wildlife started coming back to this area because they made it green. So,
oh, wow.
Pretty cool. It even attracted the attention of Jim Jones' daughter, and she said it was nothing like being in Jonestown. Like she was a part of the Rajneeshis. They were all over the news. They were a hot topic. People were very curious, scared, and interested in what was going on with these Rajneeshis. Tensions between the Rajneeshi and the townspeople were high. The Rajneeshis quickly started integrating themselves into the small town, starting with Antelope Store and Cafe. It was called the Antelope Store and Cafe, and they purchased it and changed the name to Zorda the Buddha. They started buying the houses in the town, paying full price. They purchased 3 lots on one side of town, 7 lots on the other side of town. In a small amount of time, had made a big presence in Antelope. The Rajneeshis had begun registering to vote and were winning in elections. They had way more than 40 people, so it wasn't hard to outvote Antelope.
Right.
The people of Antelope at this time were walking around with guns as a way to intimidate these Rajneeshis. Townspeople had bumper stickers saying better dead than red, because they all pretty much wore red. By 1983, things were progressing in a bad way. They had their own hotel in downtown Portland, and one night 3 bombs went off in the hotel.
Oh.
The identity of whoever set them off is unknown, but it shifted something in these, love and compassionate kind of people, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, they began accumulating guns and began target practicing, training, so they were ready for whatever, if anything, was coming their way.
Wow.
And they had so many people there that there was an expert in everything. One of the people that was interviewed in the documentary was a lawyer, and he was very much in this community. And so, you had somebody who used to be in the military and could teach and train these people how, it was you had all the little papers with the heads set up, and people were just practicing shooting and practicing their aim.
Wow.
It's crazy. In another election, they actually changed the name of the town from Antelope to the city of Rajneesh. They changed the street names as well. They had enough people on the council to effectively vote in anything that they wanted. And at one point, they voted that a section of the land that was just empty and weedy to be a place for nude sunbathing.
Oh.
And Antelope was 50 and up older, I would say conservative folk.
Hot.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, of the 40 people that lived there, it was, like, very much a niche. It was very much, like, from what I gathered is, like, a lot of, I'm not saying, like, good or bad. I'm just saying, like, it was a lot of conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
They seemed to be
yeah.
Caucasian in ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
And the people of the city of Rajneeshpuram, whatever, it's, like, all races, all people, and they're, like,
Ages,
open about their sexuality and just, like, doing these things and, like, voting. And, this is just, like, a place for nude sunbathing. So they're really coming in and, like, radicalizing this.
Yeah, like, shifting their whole world.
And it's, like, the quiet, sleepy town of, like, people who are retired and just want to, like, settle out their last few years in peace.
Oh, no.
So just kind of, like, painting that picture, I guess. They created their own police force called the Peace Force. They were booming, becoming known globally, and establishing more and more temples in India, Australia, Italy, Germany, Amsterdam, and Portugal. And with around 500,000 followers, it's no wonder that at this point their net worth was about 65 million.
Wow. Did it end up being a religion, basically? Or was it just, like, different sects of the same group that just had kind of gathered in different countries?
I mean, it sort of was a religion. It was like a meditation religion.
Like a way of life?
Yeah.
Kinda? Okay.
So 65 million in 83 is 182 million today. They were also having these huge festivals in Oregon on their ranch where all the sannyasin people would come in from all over the world that were part of this. Mm-hmm. And they would just party. They would have hot air balloons, fireworks, dance floors, live music. And they would have all this merch with Bhagwan's face on it, which was just, I mean, it was just like a cash flow, basically.
Wow.
Also, and this doesn't mean anything. I just find this really interesting. He had 17 Rolls Royce at this time. So anyways, it's just like, wow. Okay. 17 Rolls Royce. And then, like, in one of the interviews that Sheila gave, she was like, the guy was like, I think he has 14 or something. She's like, it's actually 17 and it's going to be 20 very soon.
Jeez Louise.
So John Silvertooth, who was the ex-mayor of Antelope, was, I don't know, kind of spying on them, if you will. And he jumped into a dumpster and found, I guess, some weird things. He ended up submitting them to the Attorney General of the state of Oregon. He found meeting minutes and paperwork that explicitly said shred after meeting. Really, one of the big things was that they had arranged marriages, and that what they kind of preached, or what Bhagwan preached, was like marriage is like the downfall of society, and that you should just have like open love. And
then why would they have arranged marriages?
It was to immigrate people.
Oh.
Because if one person was a citizen and you marry one person, it was like an illegitimate marriage. And they knew it. And so then they were essentially being charged for like immigration, or it was like an immigration fraud issue.
Okay.
So at this point, it was sort of coming to light that because you can't mix church and state, Oregon was deciding if what they were doing is constitutional or not, or if it should continue or not. Around 1984, the Rajneeshis were paying Greyhound buses to begin busing in around 6,000 homeless people onto their ranch from all over America. They were taking them in, giving them a space, cleaning them up, giving them medical attention if needed, providing them jobs and food and shelter. But why? Their plan was to enter the election and win over Wasco County, which was the county in which Antelope or Rajneeshpuram resided in. And it was like a save our skin situation so that they could keep living the way that they were living, because the tensions were so high after he had found all that like paperwork in the dumpsters, right? And they knew that if they didn't win, they might be voted against and lose their home. When Election Day rolled around, the county suspended the right to vote to new voters because they knew that Oregonians weren't going to win if all the people that had been bussed in voted.
Wow.
And honestly, the Rajneeshis, like, they followed the rules. The rule is, I mean, they found a loophole in it, but as long as you were 18 years old, a U.S. citizen, and had lived in Oregon for 20 days, you were legally allowed to vote. And Oregon just basically said, fuck you. You actually can't vote today.
Oh.
So I think, as much as, like, I'm like pro, like I love Oregon. I have a lot of amazing memories there. Like I think it was really shitty of them to do, just like accept your loss, like find a loophole like they did. Like they're reading the laws and like doing things legally. I mean, nothing,
book, basically.
Nothing that they did is illegal up to this point. And you guys just want to be like, actually, we're suspending the right for new voters to register. And it's like,
yeah, then you start getting
really like, why don't you
some
just
dicey territory?
Why don't
there.
you just get clever? Like they're clever. They
That's
figured
why,
out
because they weren't as clever, and so they wanted to dial it back. And
so that's totally like my own personal opinion. Like that's fine if like you disagree with that, whatever. But I just think like Oregon, it was just a low blow for them. So when the homeless people returned to the commune, they were fucking pissed, and they were like throwing basically tantrums. They felt like their rights had been stripped. As they quite literally had. Like, literally, Oregon said, you don't have rights here right now. Your right to vote as an American citizen is null and void right now.
Yeah.
And one of them was so pissed that he actually picked Sheila up by the neck and strangled her.
Oh, God.
And Sheila at this point was, like, really the face. Because Bhagwan, even though he was, like, the master and the, like, you know, the leader, everything that he was saying was all through Sheila. And so, like, really at this time, like, Sheila was, like, the face of this community.
Okay.
And so, yeah, this guy picked her up and strangled her. And it was decided that they were going to just drug the homeless people's beer that night. At this community, you could have 2 beers a day. And they drugged the homeless people's beers that night with Haldol, which is a sedative. But at the same time, they were telling them, they don't see you as people. We see you as people. We will respect you and we will fight back. So it was kind of this like two-faced weird situation. I have so much more to read. Buckle up.
Wow. This is a long one.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is where things start to get weird. If none of that was weird, fine. But this is where things start to get weird.
Okay.
So just like a few little facts that'll kind of tie together later, but 750 people in a few towns over mysteriously got salmonella, of which authorities blamed Rajneeshis, though it was not proven at the time. There were also chocolates sent to a bunch of political leaders, claiming to be from some, I don't know, like other
organization
exactly.
Or something.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly where they were sent from. And one of the people looked at the bottom of the chocolates and said there was a pinprick in them, and a bunch of people got sick after eating them. There was paranoia inside and outside of Rajneeshpuram. Around this time, some famous people from Hollywood started showing up and wanted to be a part of the community. One of them was actually the director of The Godfather, so these weren't small names.
Oh, wow.
Sheila felt really uncomfortable with their presence, and so uncomfortable that she ended up wiretapping Bhagwan's room. And she learned that he was gonna, like, kind of commit, like, a fake suicide, where he was gonna have drugs administered by his new Hollywood doctor in like a progression where one kind of like made him like fall asleep, one paralyzed his body, and then one basically killed him. Sheila rallied with a few trusted people. She had like her own inner circle, and like within the community she lived in this, her house was called Jesus Grove. And then she had like her trusted circle of like 20 or so, somewhere around there, people that lived in her home with her. And so she rallied these people, and she was like, we have to kill this doctor. Like, we have to save Bhagwan. We have to keep him alive. So someone volunteered. She's in the documentary a lot. I'm not going to like say her name or anything, but she volunteered to take a syringe and basically kill the doctor.
Ooh.
So during a ceremony one night where they're all just chanting and cheering and going at it, she ends up walking up to the doctor and asks him a question, and as he leans in, she, like, stabs him with this syringe. He didn't die, but at that point in time, she decided to leave. She was like, I don't know, it just went too far for her. Like, where was this line? Like, thou shalt not kill. We're here for love and compassion.
Yeah.
I understand, like, we want to keep this guy alive, but, like, what am I doing right now that I'm willing to, like, kill another person to keep this guy alive? Like, so she left.
Right.
Tensions were really rising between Sheila and Bhagwan, and at that time, for several years, she had been his right-hand woman, and Bhagwan had basically conveyed everything that he wanted to say through her. She was the face of this community, really, like, and she was essentially going against these Hollywood people. She's like, I know that these are, you know, your new inner circle, and I just don't like them. Like, I don't think that they have your best interest at heart. I think that they're gonna, like, be bad for you ultimately. She's like, I know that they're gonna want to harm you, and essentially she knew that he wasn't going to budge on his decision of keeping them in his inner circle. So September 13th, 1985, Sheila left. And several members followed, including the girl who killed that doctor, or tried to kill the doctor who didn't die. When Bhagwan found out that she had just left, he was beside himself. When she left, he broke his 3.5-year silence and made it clear that he wanted her found. Like, he is like this essence of peace and tranquility and like just the
non-violence.
He's like promoting enlightenment and all this stuff, right? And so from here, he
snapped.
Yeah. He fucking snapped. So he came out of his year silence. He was like, I'm gonna find her. He went on the air blaming her for all these criminal actions, outing Sheila for bugging homes, outing her for bugging his home, for poisoning people with salmonella, and saying criminals just don't leave like that. If the government doesn't take action, our people will take action. Sheila ended up going into hiding for her safety, and his demeanor just totally shifts from this godly image with like this twinkle in his eye
to just bananas.
In a live interview, he called her a bitch.
Oh.
He was hateful and angry and was threatening her. Either she'll go to jail for what she did, or she'll just end up killing herself, is what he said.
Oh my God.
He was accusing her of horrible things that And so it ended up biting him in the ass, because he is like seeking out his own vengeance for her just like basically up and leaving him, which she has every right to do. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
Everything that he ended up accusing her of ends up opening this huge FBI investigation on Rajneeshpuram, which was really what authorities were waiting for, because Antelope had been, or, you know, what was Antelope had been pushing for this, like, the people in that area in Oregon were like, get these fucking people out, but they just didn't really have anything to go off of. So then it ended up being his claims that opened up this huge FBI investigation.
So he shot himself in the foot, basically.
It ended up being his downfall, yeah. So the FBI came, they looked at everything in this community, and they found so many recording devices, like all over. Like, if you were living in this commune, you were being recorded. They found secret rooms within secret rooms within secret rooms. And one of the secret rooms in Sheila's house it was like a secret room, and then you go through a door, and then you go downstairs, and in this room was like a hot tub.
What?
They found 10,000 recorded tapes in Sheila's room. That they said, I think it would take something
like audio, like cassette tapes? Okay.
That they said, yeah, because it was like in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, it was in the 80s, yeah.
It would take something like 4 years for them to listen to all of it if they listened to it for like 24 hours.
Gosh.
4 years might be wrong, but it was something like that.
Just an excessive amount of time to listen to all of this information. Wow, okay.
The mayor at the time of Rajneeshpuram, KD, ended up outing the Rajneeshis and went into the witness protection program. The authorities were trying to find something that would give them the green light to officially arrest Bhagwan, because they really wanted to arrest him because they thought that it would be the fall of the commune. When they finally had enough to arrest him, they were kind of at a standstill, because the commune at this point was so heavily armed. It had 17,400 rounds of ammo, 20 semi-automatic Uzi rifles, 96 AK-47 rifles, and 1 million rounds of AK-47 ammo, which was more automatic weapons than all of the Oregon police combined. So they really had to act strategically. Everyone was on edge, the commune and the authorities, and then Bhagwan boarded his Learjet and took off from Oregon. Like, he knew that they were coming. He knew that it was just a matter of time before they came and just arrested him. So he just got on his Learjet and fucking left. He left presumably to Bermuda, where they couldn't extradite him. But from the moment, which reminds me of
Blow Me to Bermuda.
Thank you, Sword of the Stone. Bermuda. I just keep seeing him like with his like shorts on.
Me to Bermuda.
With his like shorts on.
Oh my gosh.
Oh god, okay.
I got you.
But from the moment that the jet took off, because they were like on surveillance there was helicopters, like they knew they were coming, right?
Yeah.
The FAA were tracking his jet, and they knew that somewhere in the United States he would have to refuel before he left for his final journey. In Charlotte, North Carolina, the police surrounded the plane and arrested him when they landed to refuel.
Unfortunate for you, bro.
In Germany, Sheila's location had been leaked, so she fled to Germany. Her location had been leaked by a magazine.
Why Germany? Did they say?
Don't know.
Oh,
it seemed like that's where they went. She took, like, the people that went with her, which was, I think, like, 13 people. They all went to Germany.
Oh, random. Okay, I didn't know if there was a specific reason why she chose Germany or what, but...
I don't think so.
All right.
In Germany, Sheila's location had been leaked by a magazine that she had done a piece for, and she was arrested, and she ultimately pled guilty for wiretapping, mass poisoning, and she paid $469,000 in fines, serving 4.5 years in prison with a promise to leave America once released. Bhagwan pleaded guilty to 2 felonies. One of them was the immigration thing, and I can't remember what the other one was. I was going to add it in, and I totally forgot. You see all those stars? I was going to add in the other one. But he pled guilty to 2 felonies and left the country on a jet with a few other sannyasins. He ended up going back to India. The city of Rajneeshpuram was falling apart. People began leaving, deciding that it was time for the era in Oregon to end. And they left the metropolis that they had created. And Antelope celebrated, changing the name back to Antelope, changing their street signs back, and they literally threw a party because these people were gone.
Oh, wow.
They had signs up saying, "Antelope hostages, free at last."
Oh, wow.
They erected a flagpole with a plaque at the base outside the post office reading, "Dedicated to those of this community who throughout the Rajneesh invasion and occupation of 1981 through 1985 remained, resisted, and remembered. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for a good man to do nothing." In 1987, Sheila appeared again from prison, making the statement, "I say to all Oregonians that you did not understand Bhagwan, nor did you understand his teaching, nor did you understand Sheila. You've missed out on Rajneeshi, their business, their intelligence, and their very special ability of celebration and laughter. I laugh more at you than Oregonians who say you are happy that Sheila is in prison." People continue to follow Bhagwan to India, where he changed his name to Osho and went back into silence. In 1990, Bhagwan died. His last words, "I leave you my dream." The sannyasins held a celebration for him, cremating his body. It was later discovered that his inner circle, which was about 20 selected sannyasins, had overdosed him, ultimately killing him.
Oh my God.
Today, Sheila lives in Switzerland and works with sick and deceased elderly. They sing and dance, and she's found her own version of taking what she experienced and bringing it into her life today.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
The Rajneeshis are still thriving. It's crazy. They're like, you can't bring them down. You can't bring these people down. You can buy their books on Amazon.
And where's their home base now?
India.
Back in India?
Mm-hmm. It's in 53 languages, and you can go and stay and meditate and be a part of this still. New people are arriving daily, and there seems to be no stopping their force at this time. And it's like, there's literally like when you check in, there's an iPad. Like, how many days will you be staying here? And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, it's crazy. It's like its own thing. Like, you can go to this place and just retreat and, I don't know, it's like, do their meditation, have sex with people, and like celebrate. And something that was like universal with all of them was like everybody was happy. Like, it really was a happy group of people.
Okay.
But things just really escalated between Oregon and them.
Okay.
And I find this ironic as fuck. The ranch that once held the thriving town of Rajneeshis was eventually bought out, and Christians live there now. It's called Young Life, and it's an abstinent Christian youth program. The people of Antelope claim they're much better neighbors. But I'm like, well,
Isn't Young Life like a cult? Or like an organization?
I mean, it depends on like how you view Christianity.
Well,
because
true.
if the definition of a cult is like a religious group that looks at one leader, then yes, it is. But it's just funny to me that like there was like this group of people that lived there that was like having all kinds of like crazy sex.
They were just like over on this side.
I don't even want to say crazy sex. It was just like open sex, like free love was like their thing. Mm-hmm. And then that just didn't jive with what the townspeople
someone
thought.
Else over on this side of everything. Just
and they're like, well, this religion works more for us. We accept this religion here because they are like abstinent and do things like the way that we think. Anyways, it's just interesting that like the same area is like complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, do you see like the ghosts of like a lot of people passed, or like, I don't know. It's just crazy that like you have 0 to 100, or 100 to 0 as far as like who's living there now.
Yeah.
And honestly, it looks, I mean, it's cool. They have like these huge swimming pools and like water slides, and
did they keep all like the structures and stuff from when?
I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't. It was like great.
If it had to go to foundation, then.
So did Oregon or even America miss out on a beautiful population of people? Or are we better off not having the Rajneesh in our life? If the townspeople had been more accepting, or even if the Rajneeshis hadn't changed so much about their town, do you think harmony could have been found?
If people were a little bit more open-minded, maybe, but that's not normally the case. So, I mean, I feel like if it hadn't been, just like, it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe, where you come from, nobody likes things that are, like, most people fear change.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like when things are just jammed down their throats. So had it been, like, a smoother assimilation where it was like, let's try to understand you, you can try to understand us.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if we can agree to disagree, then maybe it could have been a little bit more peaceful. But I think if you just go kind of 0 to 100, because I feel like the Rajneeshi did that too in a way. Like they came in and just infested the whole area where it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There was no time for assimilation, but we'll never know.
And I feel like maybe if they had just stayed on their ranch, or like didn't.
Yeah, like stayed in their lane a little bit.
Or even like, okay, come into the town, eat at their cafe, but it was like, I think for me where the escalation really started was when they came into Antelope and was like, I'm going to change the name of your cafe, I'm going to change the name of your town, I'm going to change your street names. Like, I think it just invalidated everything that this, you know, quiet little retired community had like built for themselves. Yeah. And it's like, okay, you outnumber us, like this, and this. So that's when they started carrying around the guns. And it's like, I mean, I feel like maybe Antelope would have just left them alone if they had kind of left Antelope alone.
Yeah,
but that's just not what happened. Or if they had just not gone in and just been like, let's just like start new.
Yeah.
You know, like you already have this like 80,000 acre ranch, but ultimately from what I had seen, like it definitely feels like a cult, but it didn't feel like they were malicious. And it really didn't even feel like the leader was malicious. Like a lot of these like cult leaders are like,
they have, like, ulterior motives and not good ones.
Yeah. Exactly. And so it didn't really feel
minus, like the fraud and stuff that they were doing, because that seems to be, that kind of is in my mind as well.
But America taps us. Like, it's a double standard, I feel like, when we're talking about, like, wiretapping or, like, immigration fraud. And it's like, well, whatever fits your narrative is going to be, like, what sticks, right? Yeah. Because, we're going to put, you know, this other religious group here and that works better for you. So it's just like whatever fits like people's narrative is, I think, what ultimately
gets
is, like,
the headlines, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
no, that's fair. So I mean, we could argue both sides, or we can argue one side.
Exactly.
But we'll just never.
No, but I think both sides played a huge part in it. Yeah. And I think ultimately it was like this combination of.
Yeah. And usually that's the case with anything. It usually is like a two-way street. Very rarely do you see something where, like, one party legitimately was just like, oh, nope, and then just completely swarmed in on this other person or this other group or whomever. So, I mean, we'll never know. But
I just wonder,
bananas.
Like,
5 years of just...
But if they had just stuck to their ranch, did their naked sunbathing on their ranch, and, like, stayed out of these people's business, but they just... I feel like their downfall was kind of like... Maybe they didn't invade. Maybe they didn't take over. I guess that just, like, depends on who you ask. But, like, they really took force into this little town. Yeah. And this little town was, like,
whoa. Calm down. Yeah.
And whether your, like, heart is in the right place or you feel like I'm doing the right thing, like, you're, like, this is still places people have lived for decades.
And if you don't take the time to hear
both sides
or hear them out, then you're automatically like, what you feel doesn't matter.
And right away they had enough people on city council to just outvote everything Antelope wanted. So it was just like an unfair playing ground, I feel like, from the start. And like I said, like, I don't feel like they were like a manipulative group or like a bad group or anything.
Yeah,
like,
not what you think of when you think cult.
Right. Yeah. But ultimately, they definitely like overstepped, I feel like, in a few ways, if not more than a few ways. And it ended up just kind of like, it was like a trickling effect to them, kind of just ended up going back into India. But
yeah. Again, he popped up when I was doing my research.
I'm not surprised.
Kind of everywhere. Yeah. But I didn't know the whole story.
This was a suggestion from Dewey, Alex's stepdad. So thank you, Dewey, for that. That was a lot. Wild fucking. It was like there were so many like chess pieces in it that it's like, oh, well, maybe I don't leave that in. But then it played in later, and it's like, nope, I have to like it. Just make a couple sentences about it. And yeah, the documentary was really good because they actually interviewed these people like firsthand, and like Sheila's interviewed, and she gets to tell her story, and it was just really well done and really well put together. And if you found the Rajneeshis or any of that like interesting, I highly recommend watching the documentary because it just paints this picture. And I feel like a lot of people say like the first 3 episodes you're like, hey, this sounds pretty good, and then the last 3 episodes you're like, these people are crazy. And I feel like I didn't really do that. I just felt like it was just like a big misunderstanding where honestly America was like, we have more power and we're going to exercise that power, and nope, you can't vote today, and we have more expensive lawyers, and we just have like the authority here. And so we're eventually going to find something to like crack you because we want to, because we don't want you here. That's how I felt like it ended up being. And again, like, I don't feel like it was just like they were just this totally innocent group of people by any means towards the end where they had like poisoned people.
It could have been handled better.
But yeah, it was just this escalation that just was really kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
They interviewed this lawyer who he ended up being Bhagwan's lawyer through a lot of this.
Oh, wow.
And like, I forget who, but he was told by somebody like, even if you win this, like, they're just going to appeal it. Like, they can do whatever they want and they will win. Even if they don't win this round, they're going to win. So back down, basically.
Wow.
So anyways, that's the Rajneeshis. That's Bhagwan. That's Osho. That's Sheila.
Wow, that was a lot.
Yeah, take a deep breath. That's the most of anything I've ever done in my life. For Weirdify.
That was a long one.
That was the most
That
I've
was
done.
Dedication. Yeah. No, it's all good. You did it very well.
Oh,
I learned a lot.
You.
It was quite a ride.
Do you want to be part of the Rajneeshis, Haley?
No.
Okay. All right. What do you got for me?
Well, things are going to take a turn.
Things are going to take a turn. We haven't said that in a while.
No, I figured you would, so I
Take
didn't.
Take a turn. I'm so...
Okay.
Some part of me was like, oh my God, what if we do the same one? Just because there's a Netflix thing on it.
Uh-huh.
But then
I'm not hip on the documentary train.
I'm not either. I mean, I heard about it from Dewey, so...
Oh.
But... then when you came over and you were talking about like what you did, I'm like, yeah, she would go dark with it. She would go dark with it.
It's not as dark. Like
Is it Jonestown?
No.
Okay.
No. Like I said, my sister had told me about one, and it was real dark. Like, she actually did a disclaimer where she was like, hey, make sure afterward you have Michael to snuggle, or like you watch a Disney movie, or just something to get yourself like happy again.
What was it? I want to know.
I don't remember. It was, I can't remember.
Did she text it?
She said she was going to, and she didn't. She told me verbally, and she's like, oh, I'll text you all about it for the episode. She never did.
Okay.
But it was basically, it was basically a guy who would marry and rape young girls. And it was like a sexual like ring, basically. It was really, really, really fucked up.
Okay.
And I was like, that's not my journey tonight. I can't. I mean, this is better in the sense of it's not that intense, but it's still pretty. This bitch is crazy.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So Australia is a large island full of many fascinating plants and animals, most of which probably just want to kill you.
True. Literally everything there wants to kill you.
Yeah. So this includes Hamilton Byrne and the family, otherwise known as Australia's biggest cult. This one is a doozy, so let's hop right in. So Hamilton Byrne was born December 30th, 1921 in Sale, Victoria, Australia, under the name of Evelyn Grace Victoria Edwards. Anne's mother was diagnosed with schizophrenia and was placed in an insane asylum, and her father couldn't support his daughter, therefore forcing Anne to grow up in multiple orphanages. So that already started her off on a great foundation. Mm-hmm. As soon as she could, she moved away and changed her name. She grew up and married her first husband, who was killed in a car accident, And after the accident, Anne became fascinated by Eastern medicine, which eventually led to her love of yoga, and she went on to become a yoga instructor. She became well-known and well-liked by her clients and was always described as beautiful and always so well put together. Her charm and charisma helped easily sway people to join what would eventually become one of the most sinister cults in Australia.
Oh my God.
In 1961, Anne believed that she was in fact the female reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
See, this is how they all start.
And she preached a mixture of Christianity, in addition to Eastern practices with some apocalyptic ideology. The cult was born when she teamed up with Dr. Rainer Johnson, and he was a spiritualist who also preached his belief that Anne was in fact the reincarnation of the Messiah.
Okay. How do you know?
Which only I don't know. He was real convinced. She was a very eloquent speaker. She was beautiful. Her hair was always done beautifully. Like, she was just like, I read a thing where one of the people who had been affected by this cult and by this woman said that looking into her eyes was like when you hear the stories of like enchantresses and like looking into their eyes and they put a spell on you. That's what they equated her to, was like looking into this enchantress's eyes and she just putting a spell on you and you can't like look away. You can't. Yeah, it was weird.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Rainer Johnson's belief that she was in fact the Messiah just added to the unhealthy complex that Anne had already had about herself because she was pretty much a class A narcissist.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So using her beauty and sexual prowess, she was able to groom doctors, physicists, scientists, and psychiatrists, truly just brilliant and very like successful people, into joining the cult and doing her bidding. And at the height of the cult's power, she had approximately 500 adults following her. Johnson offered up his own property for them to hold meetings where they would have religious and philosophical discussions. The property was known as Santini Kitan, and the group later went on to purchase the adjacent land where they built a meeting hall known as the Santini Kitan Lodge. The group was mainly consisted of nurses and psychiatrists, and they would meet multiple times a week, and the cult eventually became known as the Great White Brotherhood, or as it is most commonly referred to as the Family.
Okay.
Which I don't understand the Great White Brotherhood because there were women in this and it was run by a woman, but I don't know. They didn't really go much into that.
Siblinghood?
I don't know.
Okay.
So one night after having a vision under the influence of LSD, Anne Hamilton Byrne decided that her mission was to adopt children to save them from the impending apocalypse.
Oh.
From 1968 to 1975, and with the help of her current husband, because she, I believe, had been married 3 times.
Oh.
She was able to acquire 14 infants and children through numerous adoption scams.
14?
14.
14. Oh.
Yeah. And
that's a lot of kids. Okay.
She also convinced the adult members of the family that they went by the titles aunties and uncles.
Here, take care of these kids I've adopted?
No. She basically would convince them to give her their own children.
What the
and because she was a control freak, and like I said, class A narcissist, had to control everything. Basically, she wanted to be the mother for all of these people. So the aunties and uncles looked at her as like a god and as their mother. And then the children, she had convinced them that she was the mother of these children. And so they were like, here, take my child.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to go a different way. Like, here, I'm like this great person I've adopted. Here, take care of them. But it's like the opposite. She's like, I want more children.
Yeah. She wanted she didn't want anyone else to be the mother.
Okay.
And that's how they knew her, was the mother. And so she had convinced them to give up their own children to help save them from the impending apocalypse. And over the course of the family's existence, Anne had brought up 28 children that she had acquired through the adoption scams or as quote-unquote presents from her followers. Yeah. Absolute batshit crazy.
28?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't even want one. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't think she ever had any children of her own. I'm pretty sure it was just through these adoption scams and through the people giving more or less her their children.
28. That's a large number of children.
Yeah.
All right.
So the children only knew Anne as their mother. The family eventually settled down on a rural. I always have a problem saying that.
I know.
Rural. A rural property on Lake Eildon, where they lived in isolation and were forced to obey Anne in every way. She created a school for the children and called it Up Top. She would dye all the children's hair platinum blonde and force them to wear the same thing as to reinforce the fact that they were, in fact, all brothers and sisters in a sense.
Okay.
And to add to the idea that they were the perfect master race that was destined to survive the apocalypse. Anne had many ways of enforcing her control on the children. Even for something minor like getting their clothes dirty, they were severely punished. Her favorite forms of punishment were starvation diets and beating. News reports and firsthand accounts from the children talk about how Anne would beat them with her stilettos, and she would enlist the help of the aunties and uncles. And the aunties and uncles would hold the children's heads underwater as punishment. And one child even recounted being forced to eat only leaves and nothing else. One child was even known as Zebra Stripes because he was beat so often that the bruises and marks just basically stayed permanently on his skin. Just fucked up shit.
Wow.
And in order to maintain her control over the children, she often drugged them. The smaller children were given daily doses of Valium and Mogadon, which I'd never heard of. But
what's Mogadon?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I had never heard of it.
Mom, what's Mogadon?
Yeah. Kristen, are you listening? But at the age of 14, they had to undergo an official initiation that involved heavy amounts of LSD. And the LSD trips would last for multiple days, and Anne would guide them during these trips to ensure that they continued to accept her divinity.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
Yeah. At certain points, the cult also used lobotomies and electroconvulsive therapy. The mantra that Anne had established for the family was unseen, unheard, unknown, which is what she had accomplished for 28 years. The effects of the drugs, abuse, and psychological trauma left many of the victims with severe PTSD. Most would suffer from depression, night terrors, personality disorders, and social withdrawal. Some also, whether during their time with the cult or after fleeing, would attempt suicide. In 1987, after being tipped off by two of the escapees, the Victoria police raided the property. It turns out that Anne had been taking in 10% of her followers' incomes and had accumulated a large fortune, including overseas properties in Great Britain and the United States.
Jeez.
And despite trying to flee, Anne was eventually extradited back to Australia, where she was put on trial. However, even with all the accusations that arose, Anne Hamilton Byrne was let off only with a fine.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Why?
I have no idea.
What the fuck?
I don't know if she just had so many people that still believed like her cause and that she was like the second coming of Christ. Like
she's like, I am.
I mean, she was able.
You can't.
Yeah, she was able to convince a lot of people. And so,
wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know. They didn't go too much into that. I know that the
crazy.
Police officer that had been working on the case. Well, I'll go into that in just a second.
Okay.
So, she lived the last of her days in a nursing home where she suffered from dementia and passed away in 2019 at the age of 98. And the police officer that had been working the case said that obviously most often when someone passes away, you feel like this sadness and like just a sense of loss. And he was like, that was the happiest day of my life. He's like, I have never been more upset than with how this trial ended. And all like he's just like seeing all the people that have like spoken up and the children who've obviously grown up and have all of these issues, and it's just so sad and extremely frustrating for him.
Wow.
The home that Hamilton Byrne had ran the cult out of is up for sale as of December 2021.
You better stage the shit out of that place.
Yeah, and it's listed for just a mere $1.25 million. Just in case anyone's interested.
No, I'm not.
Unfortunately, many of the now adult children who experience Anne's brutal power are left with many lasting issues and childhood traumas. 2 of the children, Jones and Chris Johnston, wrote a book and talk about how they met a man named Michael who claims that the cult still lives on today.
No.
They supposedly still hold meetings and worship Anne and her power, but not much information has come out about the cult's modern day goings on.
Michael.
So I guess Anne got her wish after all. The family still remains unseen, unheard, and unknown.
Ugh.
And that is the story of Anne Hamilton Byrne and the family.
Wow.
Australia's largest cult.
That's a sad journey you just took.
I told you. I said we were going to take a turn. I put the warning out there.
You know, it's been a while since we've taken a turn.
It has. It was overdue.
It was overdue.
This one made me feel very sad.
Very sad, but a very appropriate turn for cults, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because my cult was very, like...
Yeah, yours wasn't that bad. I was like, oh, this is, like, nice and
opposite
positive.
Of, like, the mass suicide or whatever that you... Like, when I think of a cult, I just...
You think of, like, the one crazy person that, like, took advantage and all these people died.
Like,
and
literally the opposite of that. It's just people, like, chilling. But, yeah, no, it needed to take a turn for cults. We had to go down a dark alley.
Yep, and we've done it, and now we're done.
And we've come out on the other side, and we're better for it.
Yeah, now we're back on to more happy topics. Yay!
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that very sad story.
Mm-hmm.
That was very dark.
Yeah. Yeah. If you know of any other cults.
If you were in a cult.
Oh. I don't know. Maybe it's like my throat farted. It was so surprised. My throat made a weird gurgle.
If I can edit that out, I will.
You don't have to. It's fine.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like Fight Club where it's like first rule of Fight Club, you can't talk about it. So they can't say if they're like.
I mean, these people are literally like interviewing on a Netflix documentary in person. Like,
oh, no, I'm just saying. I know, but anyway.
If you can talk about being in a cult or create an email that says anonymous culter. Cults, ex-cults, or I don't know. Tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us in some way that's safe for you.
Yep.
Or don't tell us if it's not safe for you.
Yep. Or just share any other weirdness that you've experienced, that others have experienced.
All the topics we've talked about, if not more.
Yeah.
If you think we might like it, we probably will.
Probably.
Weirdifypodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us on social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, those places. Weirdify Podcast.
Mm-hmm. I think that's it.
I feel like that's it.
Yeah. This was a long day. I mean, for you guys, it would have been a standard 2-week break.
Yeah.
But this has been a lot of recording for us today.
And
we're doing it to make sure we have the content.
We were still researching this morning. It's been a very Weirdify weekend, which has been fine, but definitely a Weirdify Sunday. But that means that I've been with you all day and it's been great.
Yep. And then I'm
not mad.
Yeah, and we're about to go try to cheer up, and we're going to watch Once Upon a Time, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, one of these eons will finish that damn series.
If you finished Once Upon a Time.
Please.
No spoilers.
Don't tell us how it ends.
No spoilers.
We will be so upset.
No spoilers. But yeah, have a wonderful day.
Yes, a wonderful week, a wonderful time. Until the next time we see you, keep
it weird.